And I'm just
what we have is we have a system in which for those who don't like to Zoom, which are some, we stream, and then we also when it streams, and then it automatically records. So so oftentimes you can't really get a full sense of who's hearing your message because by just looking at screens, because there'll be various other people after the fact, which it's actually kind of cool. We can see the demographics exactly of who watched and when and for how long, and so I have a feeling that you're, even in the short time that we kind of advertised this or communicated this, I think there are a number of people who are very interested in what you have to say. So I'm really delighted that you're here.
That's great. And I was wondering, what do you think the best way to provide resources? So I have a bunch of documents that actually might be really helpful for people to look at their leisure.
Well, we could put it in the we could just put it in the chat. Means can you want to share it? I can make you a oops, what have I done here? I can make you a co-host.
I wonder if
you can share anything you want to.
But for the folks who are going to be live streamed, they won't be able to.
You're right. So they won't be able to get this material. But if you put it in the in the chat, I will make sure to download it and provide it for anybody.
Perfect. Great. I appreciate that. And let me grab one more video. I'm going to.
Wow, people are coming in.
There we go.
A goddamn lawn jet? That's not a lawn jet. That's a general. What jet? Oh, it's not a real general from history. It's you.
Andrew, I should tell you also, so on my screen, it's right below you, but who knows where this person is on your screen. However, there is a woman named Sarit Broche who's here, and you can see she's got a white background with a bunch of people on it, look like they're dancing. So I saw your email to me about having gone to Israel with midshipmen, and her husband also is on the faculty at the Naval Academy, and also takes midshipmen to Israel usually for I think it's like 2 months at a time. Sorry, how long does Chezi go with the students?
They have different programs, but the program, hello, first of all, Dr. Ledford. Chezi is taking 2 groups for each month, for 1 month, and they are studying. Usually, there are students that are not studying Arabic at the USNA. This is from the STEM, and they are studying Arabic for 1 month in Haifa University. And when they come back, they are getting credits. Also, they are volunteering with different organizations in Israel, mainly with Arab children.
Very nice.
Yeah, in fact, Hezi, I actually had to bounce my schedule off of Hezi because he's the expert that we go to.
Yes.
And
On
so
the Middle-
we
on
talked
the
about the
Middle
trip.
East.
Yes.
Yes. And you know that thanks to him also, the USNA is sending every semester 2 or 3 midshipmen to study, to be with the Israeli Navy. And we are getting 2 Israeli officers from the Israeli Navy studying at the USNA.
Yes. So we've when I was very fortunate enough to go over to the Israeli Naval Academy, and it was fantastic. I had a relationship with them already, but it was really nice going over there. We spent the whole day with them in Haifa. So it was awesome.
Did you go to the Naval Museum in Haifa?
No, we just went to the Naval Academy. Unfortunately, we're just there for one day in Haifa.
Okay,
And then from there, we went to the Golan Heights.
very nice.
Oh, it's like considering how much of Israel basically is on the water, you would think that it's Navy.
That's right.
But on the other hand, most of its threats are coming on is more of a ground thing. But
By the way, today I published on Facebook a beautiful photo of 2 Israeli officers under the water, sitting in a sukkah under the water.
oh, nice.
I saw that actually. I did see that picture of them. They had hard
Yes.
hats, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm on their Instagram feed too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna probably wait maybe another couple minutes before we start, only because I've kind of come to understand the way we like to roll in this, in our community, which is usually either takes people a few minutes to figure out how to sign on, or they think, oh, that they can just be fashionably late. So we'll just give them another minute or 2 and then we'll get started.
No problem.
And by the way, just in case, I never know, because since I'm the one who activates the stream, and the stream is records, I'm not sure if when you enter, you are told that you're being recorded. But if just in case I'm now saying to everybody here, please know that you are being recorded. This is going on our stream, and which ultimately means it's being recorded. So just please be aware.
It is announced when we join.
Oh, good. Thanks. One more minute.
So as soon as I got back from my first trip to Israel, I came back and told my wife, how do you feel about moving to Jerusalem? I can teach there.
That's right.
For several years. I would be so happy. I've been looking at after the Naval Academy. That might not be a bad gig to go and teach there.
There is no sea in Jerusalem.
There's one?
Right. There's nothing
There is
naval
no
in
sea.
Jerusalem.
Oh, yes, but you have access to
however,
everything.
However, do you know that in Tel Aviv, there is a beach by the name Jerusalem Beach?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Oops. Yeah, people are still coming in. So I'm glad we gave it another minute. All right. I think it's an opportunity for us to start. So allow me just to kind of give people a little background before we begin. And that is that really just a little bit more than a week ago, I was kind of coming out of a bar mitzvah at the temple, and out of nowhere, I was told, hey, there's a person who would like to speak with you. Now, under normal circumstances, this is not usually something, usually I might say, another time. but there was something very, very serious and very important when I greeted this person, and so I said, sure, tell me, hey, what can I do for you? And he said, look, I am a former, and he'll probably share a little bit more of this himself, but he said, I'm a former Navy SEAL. I did a few stints in Afghanistan and also in Iraq. And, I'm sure to some degree about what's happening in Afghanistan, but I don't think you fully appreciate how, the level of, of harassment, and not just that, but just the danger that people are in at this time. And he said that he wants to, he's working to help people leave Afghanistan. But more importantly, he said, look, what we really, really need are people on this side in America who can serve and help by being sponsoring families. And I thought to myself, in our congregation, it is such an important value of ours to not just say things, but do things. We are inspired by Isaiah when he says, "Is this the fast that I ask for?" It's not just to fast and just say the words, but more than just that. But it's to do and to act and to welcome the stranger and help and be kind, and these are the things that really are our responsibilities. And here we are. This is the last. Sukkot is now ending. Simchat Torah is beginning, and Sukkot, which is this festival of Sukkot, which is so central to our people, because the primary value of Sukkot is welcoming people in, and so as Andrew was sharing with me, or should I say Commander Ledford, or should I say Dr. Ledford, I'm not sure, but as he was sharing with me what he was talking about, what his needs were, it became clear to me, my only response was, okay, how can we help? What can we do here? And he said, can I just have an opportunity to talk to people, to kind of explain to them what it means and to see if they can help? Because really, this is just an effort to help. And so, so my response, absolutely, immediately, let's do this as soon as we possibly can, because it seems as if this is an issue which is time sensitive. I mean, every single day that we ignore the screams and calls of people who are suffering and who are being harassed, but also being killed, for that matter, in Afghanistan, every single day is another day that we're missing up, that we could have been helping somebody. And so so it really, in very short time, we put this together. And as I'm sure you saw this, you probably only saw this mentioned over the last week. And so this is something which is really important. This is for the same congregation that embraces so deeply the notion of winter relief, which we do, and we care because we know that it's more than just words, it's actions. This is another one of those opportunities. So what I want to do is stop talking myself and let Dr./Commander/ Andrew Ledford share a little bit about what's going on, what he's doing, and what we can do to help him. So Andrew, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. And I really appreciate the immediateness with your reception, at the temple. I mean, it was completely immediate once I kind of explained what I was looking to do, and just this opportunity to talk to folks. I'm still active duty. I'm not speaking at all on behalf of the Naval Academy, on behalf of the Navy. This is just everything I'm doing on the outside. So it has nothing to do with the Navy or the Naval Academy. This whole effort started with personal relationships from folks who have been over in Afghanistan and had personal relationships with interpreters, with Afghan Special Operations Forces, with folks who worked on the bases with us, who stood side by side with us for 20 years I did 2 tours there, and in many, and I just did 2 tours. There are many folks who went back multiple times, and those relationships lasted for years and years. And we've kept up with people, emailed, and then next time you go back, you reconnect. You may be in different parts of the country, but that's how this whole effort started. As soon as it was clear Afghanistan was going, the passionate kind of requests of, we've got to get out of here. We've got to get what our friends, who stood by us for 20 years in this effort in Afghanistan, we've got to get them out. And as we got closer and closer to the fall of Kabul, it became very clear what was about to happen there. And I can tell you every day since the end of August, I get videos every day of the atrocities that don't make it into the news, of what's going on in there, the executions, the horrible, just the absolute worst of humanity, of what's going on in the ground there. And it's happening with the very people that we were partnered with. They're actively looking for the Afghan National Army soldiers, SOF in particular, and they are going after them by name. They know roughly where they live, and they're going to their houses. They're searching for them. They're asking neighbors. Just today, that came out in the chat room. There's a form now that they're requiring every Afghan to fill out. It's almost like a census form. And it has information of where are you, where have you been living for the last several years, what has been your occupation, phone numbers. And so they're creating this kind of database, and this is happening in Jalalabad and Mazar Sharif and Kandahar, Herat, Kabul. And they're starting to build up this database to figure out where these folks are. So that's where it all started, with these personal relationships. And now it has grown. It's grown to, folks who have either supported us, but it's also folks who are now at risk. Tonight, by 8 o'clock tonight, I've got a group of 5 that I'm hopefully going to get on a plane in the next 48 hours. And, they were a small business owner, was a female, ran, a couple small businesses and some gyms, and, her entire livelihood is gone. And not only is her livelihood gone, now when they go through checkpoints, say on a 12-hour drive from Kabul to Mazar Sharif, you'd hit 12 Taliban checkpoints. And I know this because I've had many families that I've been working with that have made this trip in the last month. They'll pull out the boys, and I'm talking with one of the families that I work with. They pulled out the 8- and 9-year-old boy, and they were, and I apologize for kind of some of the topics we're going to talk here, but they were going to be Chai boys. And the Chai boys they have sex with them at night in some cases, not all the time, but it happens. And, it was very clear what was happening with the boys. And then they pulled out the older boys, 17 and 20, and they were going off to work with the Taliban. They're going to be fighters in the Taliban. They're going to be forced into serving the army. There's a daughter that they had, and she was the one I was really worried about. She was early 20s, and we have plenty of cases where already they're being forced brides with the Taliban fighters as their reward for fighting, with the Taliban, especially so those forced fighters, that's something that gets promised to them. And so for the females in Afghanistan, there is no future. They are not going to school anymore. And not only not going to school, there's zero opportunity for work. And, in cases they'll be forced into, some kind of servitude with the Taliban. The atrocities every day, as Rabi is just saying, every day this is going on. I get videos, we get clips from the folks that we're working with. They send us, what they are seeing with their own eyes, and it doesn't. It's flabbergasting to me that it just doesn't make the news. So what our organization is doing, it's made up of mostly special operations folks and intelligence folks who have been over to Afghanistan and had these relationships. And we are working basically to get the Afghan families that we partnered with, and they're roughly around 5,000 to 6,000 Afghans that my organization's working directly with. And almost all of these have been working directly with us. And so it's them and their families, and their immediate families that we're talking about. And we are working through the process. There's a 4-front process. The first part is getting them safe into a safe location within Afghanistan. Then we work to recover them to get outside of Afghanistan to a lily pad, a second country in which their paperwork can be processed. Third would be getting them to the United States, and fourth, getting them settled. And really what I'm looking for, the ask is for this, is for help with sponsorship. So there's 4 types of visas that we are working with in particular. The first is what's called a SIV, a special immigration visa. And it is for folks who have worked directly with the United States for over a year, and they have that documentation saying this person worked on camp whatever for over a year, and they go through an interview with the embassy or with the consul, and then they are approved for SIV, and that's one way to get here. The problem in Afghanistan, we have no more people there, so there is no one to do interviews and approve them, and they're not doing it virtually. So that method, if it's not in the system, even if it's in the system, there's just low expectation that they are going to get approved on a SIV. There's P1, P2 visas or quasi visas, and those are for academic individuals, and P2 would be for individuals who weren't there for a full year. They didn't work with us for a full year, but they've worked with us in some way. I've already filled out some P2 applications as well, but they also require these interviews at a US embassy with the chief of mission or the consul. And then the final one, which we got to, which is some relatively new, it's been used before in other instances, and it's being adopted for Afghanistan in particular, is called humanitarian parole. And that is the one which we feel has the greatest likelihood of success, in that it's not quite a visa, but it's a grant of a temporary access to the United States, which lasts for 2 years. And at the end of those 2 years, they've got to figure out what to do next. But there's avenues and where they can go, during that period, which basically allows them to get here. And I should have said this at the beginning too. I'm not an immigration lawyer. I don't, much of this stuff I have learned just over the past month and a half from doing this. I am going to share with you a video on the chat room, which is by immigration lawyers that do this full time, and they are working pro bono to support us. There's a large number of immigration lawyers who have now volunteered their time, and they're paying the application fees for us, and they're dedicating a huge amount of resources towards this problem. And everything I've been learning through them. So just with that caveat, I have about an iceberg worth, the tip of the iceberg worth of knowledge on this subject. But I can put you in touch with the immigration lawyers who can explain it. And I think anyone who is interested in sponsoring, I would recommend, and the first thing I'm going to ask you if you come to me about sponsoring family is, have you watched the full video? It's an hour video. It's a YouTube link, live stream they recorded. I prefer that everyone watch the video before you say, yes, I'd like to sponsor, because a lot of the questions and the details of the sponsorship are there. But what the process is and why we need sponsors is, it is the way that the US government understands that the individuals coming here will not be basically a load on society, that they're not going to immediately come here and get on welfare. I'm kind of paraphrasing this. But it's, the sponsor is kind of a guarantee that you're going to provide the resources and point them in the right direction. They're not going to be living in your house. You're not going to have to pay their rent. You're not going to have to support them financially for the most part. But you are going to be the one person here, and they'll probably have more people that they will know here, but you are going to be someone here that the government can say, yes, they do know someone here in the US who is willing to help them get, be a part of American society and establish this as their home. And you're going to help facilitate that.
Andrew,
So,
can I ask you a quick question? Do you have the
yeah,
capacity to tell us what the link is on YouTube, so we can just, so I can stick it in the chat here? And that was quick. Thank you very
I
much.
just dropped it into the chat. I had it copied. That was one of the things I was going to do, is make sure I had it on there. So that's the YouTube video that explains quite a bit about the resources. One of the immigration lawyers is a Army Green Beret Special Forces officer who spent some time in Afghanistan. So him and a couple others on there are equally as passionate about this. But it is a big ask, and I will say to you up front, I will drop another document in here, which is let's see if I can throw this in here right now. Let's see if that works. Yep, there it is. The package checklist. And if you go through that checklist, you'll see they are going to ask for everything as far as your financial documents. They're going to ask for tax returns, bank statements, all of your financial data they'll be asking for. And this goes to the immigration lawyers only. And those immigration lawyers then file on our behalf with the US government. Those are the individuals getting it. And the reason why they need that is they do want to make sure that there's a threshold of income that is a sponsor has to be able to support these families. I was concerned about this at first. I'll be honest, thinking about this. I'm working specifically with a family of 24. And I was, worried, what does this sponsorship look like? After watching the video, it definitely eased my concerns on what actual sponsorship means. I've got 4 young kids at home. And so, I wasn't looking forward to financially supporting 24 other people on top of my 4. But I think at the end of the day, it is really someone saying here in the US, yes, I will make sure that we can get them to, the resources. And there are a huge amount of resources. I just dropped into the chat room a document that has the dozens of resources and the organizations that are being set up just within, the last several months to facilitate, the Afghan families coming over and what they have access to. I think that number is going to grow. I think there's going to be more and more opportunities and organizations that are going to step up, especially when the numbers start coming in. The US, I think they just doubled the number from, I thought it was 60,000 to 120 or 150,000 as the refugees that they're going to bring over. And humanitarian parole is going to be the way to do it. So I will say one other thing. So the ask today, and it's a big ask, sponsoring a family. What I would do for folks who are interested, and once you've watched the YouTube video and you've seen the checklist of what it would require, and if you're still willing to do that, to connect up with me, I will connect you up with the operator that is working with that particular family. And the terminology we're using are shepherds and flocks, for good reason. It's I will connect you up with the shepherd who's specifically working with that flock, and you can get an update. You'll find out who they are, what the relationship is, why that shepherd is working with that particular flock, and then you'll be able to get updates on where they're at. It's going to be a process that probably takes months for them to eventually get here. But before that process can happen, before we can get them out the door, over the border, they have to have some kind of visa application in the works. And so for humanitarian parole, that means a sponsor. So before we can even get them over the border, which we can, we know the ways to do this. We've been doing things like this for years. We have the ability and the capability and the assets to be able to do this. But we just, the starting point is sponsorship with humanitarian parole. And without that, they're really held up in a place where we can't get them moving. So that's one side of it, is humanitarian parole. Now, I understand too that there are folks who, after watching all of that, the video and seeing the checklist, maybe are going to be apprehensive about doing it. So, one other aspect which might be able to help is donations through the 501c that we have, which is right here. Let me drop this for you as well. It's there you go. I'm going to copy and paste this in. So the organization that I'm working with is 501c is operationrecovery.org. That gives you more information about who we are, our mission, and the ability to donate. And one aspect of this, which is really tough for humanitarian parole, is that for every application of every individual that we are applying, it's a $575 cost. It's a $575 fee that the State Department is charging for each of these applications. So it boggles my mind that we are charging them $575 each for this. But the family of 24 that I'm working with, there's just under $14,000 just to apply for the humanitarian parole. And that's not even saying that they're going to get it. That's just for the application costs. There's a way to waive that fee or request that the fee is waived. The experiences that we've had so far is that those applications do not get looked at, that they get put off to the side, and only the ones in which everything is there, they've got the fees paid, get looked at first. So we have a good number of firms, law firms, immigration firms, that are working with us, and they are covering the application fees. And so that's part of their pro bono work, is covering the application costs as well. But it doesn't cover all of them. They can't do all 5,000 of the individuals that we have. And so for folks who can't quite get there with the sponsorship, that's another opportunity in which to help. So I've talked quite a bit so far, put a bunch of resources in there. I know there's going to be questions, so I want to make sure I had some time to leave for questions as well. I'll pause there for a second.
Sure. If anyone would like to, I know that a lot of people have been kind of posting questions or suggestions. Certainly, you're welcome to ask any questions that you want in terms of what this means. Dana, please.
Oh, we
I
can't
don't
hear
think
you.
we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yes.
Okay, sorry, my headset's kind of garbage. So anyway, thank you for doing this. My question to you is, when all is said and done, what is the average amount of money needed personally to do this, beyond just vouching for a family or a group of people who might want to come over? What is that? And I know we have to submit financial documents and all of that, but what's the average ask when all is said and done from a financial perspective?
So that was a lot of the concerns with many of the folks who were watching the video that I shared with the immigration lawyers. The way I understand it, more than anything, is just vouching that you are going to be here to support them. It really depends on, the family and their ability to kind of get up and running. But, for the most part, it doesn't appear, at least from what I've seen, that you're going to be expending tons of money in doing this. And so getting them on their feet, I don't know what that looks like, but I hate to put a dollar amount on it because I just don't know my experience, but I'm not thinking this is going to be over $1,000. I mean, I'm thinking it's something less than that. It's just getting them to the resources, ensuring that they're not going to get here and then, go right to welfare and they've got no other, no one to help them, no one to turn to. I think more than anything, it is that more than anything.
Would the family live in this area, or could they be anywhere in America and you're just a phone call away, but not a quick car drive away? Does that make sense? I mean,
Correct. Yeah, they're not going to be tied to this area. In fact, that's one of the things that we've been talking about internally is, are there better places where there is, a greater Afghan community? I know, my family's from Michigan and, Dearborn, there's a heavier Muslim community in that area. Is that a, better place? But it is something that I have a feeling that Maryland is going to be a place where you're going to probably see a higher population because they're coming into Dulles. And as far as resources go, what we've been seeing with just comparing what states have for when they get here, Maryland, I've been pretty impressed with the number of local charities that have already been set up and started to support them. So I have a feeling that Maryland is going to see more maybe than others because it's definitely one of the first places that they come in through.
right.
But there are some bases that have been held as lily pads here that they've been here in the United States that they've been stationed at. So it doesn't mean that they are going to live in your area.
Got it. Tom, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, please. This is actually two. One is for Dr. Ledford. Do you have a sort of a rough idea of how many host families will be needed in all altogether? And then maybe a bigger question is, could you talk a little bit about the background of the people, like the skills they have, the education they have, just a little bit about them as a group, if that's possible?
Absolutely. For as far as the sponsor families, from what I've seen, we've been so focused on ensuring that they're in safe houses, and we've had to move them around Afghanistan often into different safe houses because the Taliban have been going to the door and looking for them. And so I would say we're looking at hundreds of sponsors that were going to be needed. And we just have started looking for this. So I put this out to the group a week and a half ago that, hey, everyone just needs to start canvassing their local organizations and trying to spread the word about getting sponsors, because we really are going to be needing hundreds of sponsors to support this. Each family, there's going to be an immediate family, and they could, range from typically 3 to 4 individuals in a family up to 10, 15. The family that I'm supporting as a sponsor is 24. There's 24 of them. And that includes cousins and, nieces and nephews. And then, there's basically 5 families all related together that are all lumped in one group. And they are going to more than likely stay together. That I wouldn't imagine that group of 24 would stay. As far as education and jobs, there's most of them. I don't know if I could say there's a job or there's an education status for most of them, because they're really coming from all over the country. And it depends on the relationship that we had and where that started from and what they did for us. There's quite a few who are special operations individuals who are, in their military, in the Afghan military. But there's also interpreters, with language skills. And I don't, for the folks that were interested in, I would say that I don't think it's going to be hard for them to figure out what to do here. I think in this environment, there are enough opportunities. There's way more opportunities here in the United States than there is in Afghanistan. And so for them to have made a living there, I think when they get here, they're going to find the opportunities around them that they're going to be able to pick up pretty quickly. So hopefully that helps.
Andrea, do you want to share? Do you have a question?
I do. Thank you so much for putting this together, Rabbi and Sir. So if you have a lot of dogs in your home, rescue dogs, like, will I be disqualified automatically as shouldn't it be like a very calm environment, or it doesn't matter? Like, how does it look? And
yeah, they're not going to be coming
into your house,
living with you.
Oh, they won't.
No. Yeah, they're not going to be living with you. You're sponsoring them so that basically they can get on their feet in the United States.
Oh.
But they're not living in your house at all. So yes, you can have as many dogs as you want.
Sorry, and I have still a kid at home.
No, it's okay. Sometimes it gets confusing, but no, it's the sounds to me like you're there to be a support for a family. So if there's a medical concern, if they have, need help figuring out a bank to use when they, how do they even know how to even get started, and how do they even know how to, where the first place to turn is, and what do? They, when they're confused, when they're lost, they have a person that they can call, and that is you to say, hey, I have a good idea for you. Let me help you find the bank, or let me help you find, the apartment, or let me help you find something.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew, have I described that well?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it is confusing because we're using this terminology of sponsor. And so that's what it kind of would seem that they're going to be almost like Naval Academy, right? Where you sponsor a mid,
Yes.
and they come live with you and do their laundry at your place. But yeah, this is kind of a different, it
Okay,
looks
understood.
different in what you'd see normally with using that term sponsor.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a clarification question, Andrew? So is it fair to say that like this is something that the government needs in order to have these people come in under this humanitarian parole, that there's a need for sponsors so that the government feels more comfortable bringing in the numbers of families that we're talking about?
Yes.
And so they need to kind of have a one-to-one correlation between sponsor families and people who come in for the government to feel comfortable doing such a thing. Is that a fair way of also describing it?
Absolutely. And on that too, that brings up another question about like who these individuals are. There is a vetting process, even with the humanitarian parole. There's going to be a vetting process that happens at that second country. Once they get out of Afghanistan, they will still have to spend a few weeks at what we're calling a lily pad country for that paperwork to process. And in that country, they would have to meet with someone from the US consulate or US embassy. They would have to do an interview. They do a background screening to ensure that we're not bringing over, bad individuals who kind of want to do the US harm. So that is part of the process here. There is a vetting process that happens before they get here. One question that is also asked was, could like a group of people do this? And there is a caveat for humanitarian parole where an organization can sponsor a flock or family. So it would have to be an organization though. There would have to be an EIN, some tax identification number for that organization, but an organization can sponsor, a family as well. I don't think you can put together a group of families and just say, we're going to do this unless, one family in particular is saying, all right, it's going to be a team effort here, but it's going to be their paperwork. They're going to have to provide the financial paperwork. That makes sense.
Oleg, would you like to ask a question?
So I'm definitely not an immigration lawyer. So are we talking about the 864 process or the 134 process?
134.
Okay. So that from my understanding of the 860, like the Trump administration spent 4 years trying to enforce it, basically unsuccessfully. So there's almost zero financial downside to committing to this. And the other thing I just want to add is, I was a Russian immigrant. My family was sponsored by a Jewish family that we didn't know, and I was pretty young when it happened. But my parents definitely formed, a lifelong relationship with that family. So I think just beyond the bare minimum of what you're committing to, I think that there's potential if for you to form a meaningful relationship in doing a mitzvah.
Thank you very much.
And now
Jerry or Andrew Falk?
I just wanted to, I guess my question was along the line of Andrea's. I'm assuming that they'll come here and they'll go through a settlement group that will provide them with everything they'll need to set up a household. And then we'll be contacted with them. Like we've already helped set up a household for an Afghan family with supplies, physical supplies. So I'm assuming someone from like an organization like that would then contact us, or we would get them after they've come here and been set up with the household. Like we don't have anything to do with that.
Correct. Yes. And as far as I know, that is the case, that they're coming here. Once they are on their way, we're contacting local organizations. I know Catholic Charities, for example, in Baltimore, they've already been looking at several places where the family can temporarily stay. That's going to hold them over until they can find a job and they can get them to their own place, whether it's a rental nearby, that they can start living at and move out of there. But that is part of the process, is once they're in that lily pad country, we start working on this side to make sure that as they come in, we know where they're going to go, and we can start pulling together the resources that are going to go to that area to support them and get them on their feet.
Okay, thank you.
Jan Hoffberger?
Hi, I've just been thinking about this from the perspective of, years ago, we did sponsor a Russian family as a congregation, so I'm glad to hear that an organization can do it. And obviously, Temple is a nonprofit organization and has an EIN number and would potentially have the structure to do it that way. We've also been working with a friend from Salel who has been helping to resettle immigrants over the last couple of years. And she has been actually gathering the furniture and the household goods and putting them together for the family. So, I think that's something we need to really clarify to make sure that that isn't an expectation through this process, but I think it's also something that's very easy for us to commit to potentially as a congregation to help support some families coming into the area. So that I just wanted to make those comments.
Thank you.
Yes, and I think there are going to be some kind of echelons of support that are going to be required. The first and foremost one that we are very front sight focused on is getting the sponsor family. So we just get them their paperwork started, get them to a place where they can get to a lily pad country, and then eventually here to the United States. That next level echelon of support is going to be exactly what Jan was mentioning. Once they do get here, getting them set up and getting them, established and some of those resources to get them on their feet.
I see an interesting question, by the way, in the chat, which asks if there's a limit on the number of families a person can sponsor. Do you have any idea if a person can sponsor more than one family?
No, there's not. Yes, they can. They can sponsor more than one family. And in the YouTube video, the immigration lawyers talk about the multiple. And I don't want to say it because I don't remember it correctly, but it's with each number of family, and I think it's the number of dependents you have in your household. There's a figure in there, and they provide it in the video, and then there's multiples of 5,000 per individual that you're sponsoring, and your income, which is on your gross income that you report on your tax returns, is what they use to determine if you meet the threshold for sponsoring that number. So based off of your income or the income of your organization, that's grossly reported to the government, then there's a ratio that determines how many folks you can sponsor.
Makes sense. Sarit, do you have a question?
First of all, thank you, Dr. Ledford, and thank you, Rabbi, for bringing this subject to the attention of our members. I would like to have your information, Dr. Ledford. I'm a vice chair at the Governor's Commission on Middle Eastern Affairs Commission. I do not know if you are in contact with the Communities Initiatives Office at the Governor's Office. I would like to connect you. Only last week we had a meeting, and we are at the beginning of planning. Yes, Maryland is ready to absorb. We do not know yet the numbers, but it's around 300 or 400. We do not know yet. Virginia already absorbed, has been absorbing, and we are planning to get them. And we never spoke about this topic about the sponsorship, but we spoke about how to help them getting the right, housing and furniture. The next step.
Okay, so I'll be more than happy to get you his email, and you guys can connect after this conversation. No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Dana, did you have, is this the same question as, or is your hands just still up, or do you have a different question?
Yeah, I have a different question. And it's about, and I think I saw it in the chat, so apologies, but it has to do with the communication barrier, if there is any, and what that looks like. Sorry, my daughter's doing tap in the other room, tap dancing. So do these folks generally speak some English, for going to be helping? I want to be able to communicate, that kind of thing.
There will be some who speak English. The numbers that are interpreters or worked with us closely will obviously speak English. There's also going to be, some who it's very, very broken English. But that's one of the things that they're going to have to do and learn very quickly to assimilate here. But yeah, it's going to be hit or miss on their language skills.
The governor office already has several translators from the Afghani language, the Pashto and the Arabic.
Thank you. Hannah or Stephen?
Sure. So this is just to personalize this a little bit. So you heard from some folks, their families were brought over in this. And this is an old program, maybe not the exact same program, but similar enough that it sounds like the exact same program. When my grandparents on my mom's side were in the Holocaust and they were in concentration camps, they were able to get out of Germany. And getting out of Germany was the first step, just like it is here. But getting into America was another step, and it was not easy to get visas. And my family was sponsored by a Jewish family, somebody who worked for an insurance company. We have the letter from them, certifying to the amount of money they had in the bank. It's the exact same process. It was just simply a certification to say, yes, if something goes wrong, we will make sure that it's okay and not a burden on the United States government. And yeah, I mean, to some degree, it's an honor to be able to do something like this. This has been going on for a long time. And, at least in my case, I feel like this is an opportunity to pay that forward.
Thank you very much. Heather, would you like to unmute yourself?
Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm a bit of an interloper tonight. I received notice of this program from my pastor at Severna Park United Methodist Church, who has had, I guess, open communication with your congregation. So I'm honored to be here. Our congregation has had some spurts and starts with trying to be active in sponsoring refugees, we worked with International Rescue Committee. We actually had a home for a while in Baltimore, but encountered so many problems, and the immigration numbers were so shut down beginning in 2016 that there was no one to put there, and we ultimately had to sell that home. But there's a very lively interest in something that we could do that's real and not just write checks. So I also wanted just to share how this really touched my heart as an opportunity for the three branches of the children of Father Abraham to collaborate. And I'll try not to choke up about that, but I'm honored to be here, and we're excited to be to participate in this either alongside you or with you or with Dr. Ledford's guidance.
Thank you so much. It seems like that from at this point, it's in our hands Is that a fair way? I mean, people should watch this. People should watch the YouTube. And I have downloaded the application and the other document. Now I'm forgetting which, but I have downloaded the two documents. So I have in my possession these two documents, which I will then send out to people along with the YouTube link and along with the link also to Operation Rescue. But it's not. It seems to me at this point, it's not something which you're not an agent for this anymore, Andrew, if I'm understanding this correctly, but rather you are an emissary to kind of help communicate just how important this is. Am I on it?
Absolutely.
Right? It's now in other people's hands to apply, watch the video. You encourage them because you don't want it to just be your comments. You want them to see precisely a very clear understanding of what it is, and then to apply themselves if it's something important to them.
Absolutely. And so there's multiple ways you can apply. The video is going to give you the connection with the immigration lawyers that put on the video. You can apply through them for sponsorship. You can apply through me as well. I can provide my email.
Oh, okay.
And I would connect you up directly with the operator, from our side who's shepherding the flock. And that communication, I just did one today, connected up a sponsor that I pulled from St. John's in Smyrna Park and connected them up with an operator, and they're talking already to facilitate the paperwork. And ideally, the operator that I'd be connecting you with, they can help guide you through. They've watched the YouTube video. They're connecting up with the immigration lawyers as well, and I can help facilitate that. But through the video and through the websites I've provided, it gives you the multiple avenues to do this. But I'm happy to do that as well.
Do you want? Would you like to just put in the chat your email, or would you like people, if they're interested, because I have your email, I can pass it along to them. Oh, you're typing. I think I knew it.
There we go. That is my email. And here's my cell.
Wow.
Yeah.
619, is that New Jersey?
It's San Diego. That was when I was with the West Coast SEAL teams. But, I'm happy to with email or cell. At first, when I was looking at this, I had some reluctance on this. I'm still active duty. I'm still in the Navy. I still have a security clearance I have to worry about. But at a certain point, from the stories that people are talking about, I thought about this, and if I was alive in 1860, the people that we'd be talking about would be, Black families coming up from the South. If I was alive in 1940, it'd be, Jewish families coming out of Eastern Europe. And this is an opportunity, a very rare opportunity where this is not just a crisis and there's a famine, there's a government that's just not able to cope with, taking care of their people. These families are actively being hunted down, and the executions happen every day in Afghanistan. So I look at this as an opportunity in which, you were changing people's lives, the lives of these families forever, with what we have the ability to do. And that this doesn't come around very often, where you can donate, you can, do good things, but oftentimes it's an intangible, where that stuff's going to or who that's helping. In this case, you are going to hear directly of the family. You're going to get their pictures, their passport pictures. You're going to get their information of who they are. They're going to find out their stories. And then you're going to have a part of their lives probably for the rest of your life. So it's definitely going to be a risk as far as putting your information out there with our immigration lawyers. But I think, the reward in saving people's lives go far beyond that risk. And it's worth it, in my opinion.
I am so grateful for you taking the time for giving us the opportunity to be able to do something which is worthwhile and meaningful and important. And I think that when we all watched, what was going on as we were leaving Afghanistan, in August, I think that we all approached it with a degree of worry and a degree of sadness, but also this recognition that what can we do about it? There's nothing we can do except just watch. But what looks like what you're doing is giving us an opportunity to very tangibly, at least do the best that we can to kind of feel as if we're helping as opposed to just watching. And, to the degree that our ignorance stems from our complacency, it's an ethical and not an intellectual default. So it's like, I feel like we have a responsibility now that we know about this to do something. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really, really appreciate it. It's passionate to us. It's very personal for us, the ones who've been over there at Afghanistan and know these individuals. But I really, really appreciate everything this congregation is doing.
Thank you. And just for anyone else, if you feel as if people who weren't able to, I'm speaking to everyone here, but if there were people who you feel would have wanted to see this but just were unable to, as I mentioned, if you go to our website, it is available. It's recorded and available to kind of go over it and hear it again. Or if you're having a hard time finding it, send me a note or send someone at the office a note and they can send you the link to it directly. So thank you everyone for being a part of this, and
Thank you very much.
have a good night.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Everybody. Thank you. Andrew, thank you. Bravo.
Really appreciate it. It is fantastic to be able to do this.
I really feel this was really important and meaningful, and I think that gives people a chance to, to do something with their being and with their bodies and not just with their words. So
for me, it's been cathartic actually since the fall of Afghanistan to be able to do something instead of just
sit back,
dealing with the horror of watching what we've done for the last 20 years being swept away.
Yeah, I mean, right, I can only imagine, and yeah, I can only imagine for you were there. I mean, you worked alongside these people, and and I can imagine also that there were plenty of times in which their skills were saved you on many levels. And and that's a very dramatic thing for me to say, so I don't want to overstate it, but I can't, I can just imagine that having translators or people who were able to be supportive of you while you were there, you feel there's an indebtedness that we feel to these people, that how can we just leave them alone in a very hostile environment. So.
Exactly. And in fact, I mean, that really is not an overstatement. One of the individuals I'm working with, she's a Navy petty officer who was in Afghanistan working on a NATO base. And the interpreter that was working directly with her, that's exactly what she says about him, is that he, in so many other situations that they came across, it started to getting a little dicey. And he whisked her away saying, hey, we need to leave. This is not going well. We need to get out of here. And
right.
She credits him so many times with understanding what was going on and getting her to safety. And she is now trying to get him out. He's part of the flock that she's working with.
Right. And each one of these people, just by helping you, put themselves in even greater danger. If they had just kept their mouths shut,
exactly,
then maybe they wouldn't be being hunted down right now. But because they put themselves out there to help and do the right thing, they're being punished for it now, and we are obligated to help them. Obligated. It's not just a desire. It really is an obligation. Anyway, I thank you so much, and I wish everyone a good night on this call, and hopefully we can all all come, step up here. Be well.
I
Take
appreciate it.
care.